The Dhammapada, which means path of truth, or verses of the teaching, is one of the most beloved and accessible Buddhist texts. These aren't complex philosophical treatises, but simple, practical verses that speak directly to the heart of human experience. Think of them as ancient wisdom distilled into bite-sized pieces that you can carry with you throughout your day. Each verse is like a small jewel, polished by centuries of contemplation, ready to offer guidance when you need it most. What makes the Dhammapada special is its immediacy. These verses don't require years of study to understand. They speak to the challenges we all face, the emotions we all feel, the struggles we all endure. Whether you're dealing with anger, searching for happiness, or simply trying to live a good life, these ancient words offer profound comfort and practical guidance. Let's begin our journey through these timeless teachings, starting with perhaps the most fundamental aspect of human experience, the mind itself. Understanding how to work with your mind is like learning to tend a garden. The Buddha taught that everything we experience begins in the mind, and the very first verse of the Dhammapada makes this crystal clear. Mind is the forerunner of all actions. Mind is chief. Mind-made are they. If one speaks or acts with a serene mind, happiness follows as surely as one's shadow. What this verse is telling us in simple terms is that your thoughts are the seeds of everything that happens in your life. When your mind is peaceful and clear, your words and actions naturally flow from that peace, and happiness follows you like your own shadow, inseparable from who you are. It's not saying that external circumstances don't matter, but rather that how you meet those circumstances with your mind determines your experience of them. This isn't just wishful thinking or positive psychology. The verse is pointing to something much deeper, the fundamental way that consciousness works. Just as a shadow follows your body wherever you go, the quality of your inner life shapes the quality of your outer experience. When you speak harsh words from anger, those words create ripples of harm. When you speak kind words from compassion, those words create ripples of healing. Western philosophers have explored similar ideas. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He understood that while we can't control what happens to us, we can control how we respond. The existentialist philosopher Viktor Frankl, who survived the Nazi concentration camps, wrote about the last of human freedoms, the ability to choose one's attitude in any given circumstances. Even in the most extreme suffering, he found that how he held his experience in his mind made all the difference. Modern neuroscience confirms what these ancient teachings intuited. Scientists now know that our brains are neuroplastic, meaning they can be reshaped by our thoughts and practices. When we consistently think angry thoughts, we strengthen neural pathways associated with anger. When we practice compassion, we literally grow the parts of our brain associated with empathy and well-being. You're not stuck with the mind you have. You can cultivate the mind you want. This should bring you tremendous hope. Whatever patterns of thinking you've fallen into, whatever mental habits feel stuck or destructive, they can change. Your mind isn't set in stone. Every moment offers a fresh opportunity to plant seeds of peace instead of seeds of turmoil. You don't have to be perfect at this. Even just remembering to pause and notice your thoughts is a profound act of awakening. The next teaching goes even deeper into this fundamental principle. Mind is the forerunner of all actions. Mind is chief. Mind-made are they. If one speaks or acts with a corrupted mind, suffering follows as surely as the wheel follows the hoof of the ox. Here we see the other side of the coin. When your mind is troubled, when it's filled with hatred, greed, or delusion, your actions naturally flow from that troubled state, and suffering follows inevitably. This isn't punishment from some external force. It's simply the natural consequence of how consciousness works. When you act from anger, you create conditions for more anger. When you act from greed, you create conditions for more dissatisfaction. It's like planting thorns and expecting roses to grow. The universe isn't being mean to you. It's simply reflecting back the energy you're putting out. But there's profound compassion in understanding this teaching. It means that your suffering isn't random or meaningless. There are causes and conditions that create suffering, and therefore there are causes and conditions that can end it. You're not helpless. You're not a victim of circumstance. You have the power to change your experience by changing your mind. The Dhammapada continues with a beautiful verse about mental cultivation. Just as rain does not penetrate a well-thatched house, so desire does not penetrate a well-developed mind. This image of the well-thatched house is so vivid and comforting. Just as you would carefully maintain your roof to keep the rain out, you can carefully maintain your mind to keep destructive desires from overwhelming you. This doesn't mean becoming emotionless or suppressing natural human feelings. It means developing the mental strength and wisdom to not be swept away by every passing desire or emotion. It means creating enough space in your mind that you can observe your desires without being enslaved by them. You can feel anger without becoming angry. You can notice craving without being driven by it. Cognitive behavioral therapy uses similar principles. Therapists teach clients to observe their thoughts without automatically believing or acting on them. They learn to create space between stimulus and response, to pause and choose their reaction rather than being automatically triggered. This pause, this space, is where freedom lives. The ancient Stoics also understood this. Epictetus taught that we suffer not from events themselves, but from our judgments about events. Between what happens and how you feel about it, there's a moment of choice. In that moment, you can choose wisdom over reactivity, peace over turmoil, love over fear. For you, right now, this means you don't have to be at the mercy of every thought or feeling that arises. You can develop what the Buddhists call mindfulness, the ability to observe your mental states with gentle awareness. When anger arises, you can notice it without becoming it. When sadness comes, you can acknowledge it without drowning in it. You're not your thoughts or emotions, you're the awareness that observes them. This brings us to one of the most practical verses in the entire Dhammapada. Better than 1,000 useless verses is one verse that brings peace when heard. This isn't about the quantity of spiritual practice, but the quality of understanding. One moment of genuine insight, one verse that truly touches your heart and changes how you see, is worth more than years of mechanical repetition. This should relieve you of any pressure to be the perfect spiritual practitioner. You don't need to memorize hundreds of teachings or meditate for hours every day. What matters is finding those moments of genuine connection. those insights that actually shift something in your heart. Maybe it's one line that helps you forgive someone who hurt you. Maybe it's one teaching that helps you see your anxiety differently. That one genuine moment of understanding is infinitely precious. The great Zen master Huangpo taught that sudden enlightenment is possible in any moment. The sixth patriarch of Zen, Huineng, achieved complete awakening upon hearing just one line from the Diamond Sutra. Sometimes years of gradual cultivation lead to understanding, and sometimes understanding strikes like lightning. Both paths are valid. Both are sacred. This means you can trust your own process of learning and growing. You don't have to compare yourself to anyone else's spiritual journey. Some people find peace through study, others through meditation, others through service. Some have dramatic awakening experiences, others gradually mature into wisdom. What matters is staying open and sincere, allowing the teachings to work on you in their own time and way. Moving deeper into the nature of mental cultivation, we encounter this profound verse. All formations are impermanent. Strive diligently. These were said to be the Buddha's final words, and they capture the essence of the spiritual path. Everything that arises will pass away. Everything that begins will end. This includes your problems, your pain, your confusion. Nothing lasts forever. But rather than being depressing, this teaching is incredibly liberating. It means that whatever you're struggling with right now, it will pass. That anxiety that feels so overwhelming, it will pass. That relationship conflict that seems impossible to resolve, it will pass. That sense of being stuck or lost, it will pass. Impermanence means that no state of suffering is permanent. At the same time, the verse encourages diligent effort. Not anxious striving or desperate grasping, but patient, consistent cultivation. Like tending a garden, spiritual growth happens through gentle, sustained attention. You plant seeds of wisdom through daily practice. Water them with consistency, and trust the natural process of growth. The German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer was deeply influenced by Buddhist teachings about impermanence. He saw that much of human suffering comes from our refusal to accept the transitory nature of life. We cling to pleasure and push away pain, not realizing that both are temporary visitors in the guest house of consciousness. Modern psychology has found that acceptance of impermanence, what they call psychological flexibility, is one of the strongest predictors of mental health. People who can hold their experiences lightly, neither clinging to the good nor fighting the bad, tend to be more resilient and happier overall. For you, this teaching offers both comfort and motivation. Comfort, because whatever difficulty you're facing, it truly will pass. The pain you're feeling today will not last forever. The situation that seems impossible will eventually shift and change. And motivation, because knowing that time is limited makes each moment precious. You don't have forever to learn, grow, and love. This realization can inspire you to make the most of the time you have. This understanding of impermanence naturally leads us to examine one of the most challenging aspects of human experience, our relationship with anger and resentment. These emotions can consume us, burning through our peace of mind like wildfire through dry grass. But the Dhammapada offers profound wisdom for working with these difficult states. The most famous verse about anger comes early in the text. Hatred is never appeased by hatred in this world. By non-hatred alone is hatred appeased. This is a law eternal. This isn't just moral advice or religious idealism. It's pointing to a fundamental law of how consciousness works, as reliable as gravity or the laws of physics. When someone hurts you and you respond with hatred, you don't diminish the hatred in the world, you add to it. You become part of the problem rather than part of the solution. It's like trying to put out a fire by pouring gasoline on it. The only thing that can truly extinguish hatred is its opposite: love, understanding, compassion. This doesn't mean becoming a doormat or allowing people to mistreat you. It means responding to aggression with wisdom rather than reactivity. It means protecting yourself and others without poisoning your own heart with resentment. It's possible to be strong and compassionate at the same time. In fact, true strength often comes from responding to hatred with love. Gandhi understood this principle deeply. His entire philosophy of nonviolence was based on the understanding that hatred cannot be conquered by hatred. When the British colonial government responded to peaceful protests with violence, Gandhi's movement responded with more peaceful resistance. Eventually, the persistence of love wore down the machinery of oppression. As he famously said, "Be the change you wish to see in the world." Martin Luther King Jr. carried this wisdom into the American Civil Rights Movement. Facing tremendous hatred and violence, he consistently taught his followers to respond with love. Darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate, only love can do that. This wasn't naive optimism, but strategic wisdom. Love proved to be the most powerful force for social change. The neuroscientist Rick Hanson explains that when we hold on to anger and resentment, we're literally poisoning our own nervous system. Chronic anger floods the body with stress hormones, damages the immune system, and creates patterns of reactivity in the brain. Meanwhile, practices of forgiveness and compassion activate the parasympathetic nervous system, promoting healing and well-being. But you might wonder, how can you possibly love someone who has hurt you deeply? The Dhammapada offers another verse that provides practical guidance. Let a person overcome anger by loving kindness, overcome evil by good, overcome the greedy by generosity, overcome the liar by truth. This isn't asking you to pretend you weren't hurt or to trust someone who betrayed you. It's asking you to choose your response wisely. You can choose to respond to anger with loving kindness, not necessarily toward the person who hurt you, but toward yourself and others around you. When someone treats you badly, you can choose to treat the next person you meet with extra kindness. When someone lies to you, you can choose to speak truth more clearly in your own life. When someone is greedy with you, you can choose to be generous with others. This transforms you from a victim into an agent of positive change. Instead of being at the mercy of other people's negative actions, you use their negativity as fuel for your own growth in goodness. You reclaim your power by refusing to let others determine the quality of your heart. The verse continues with practical wisdom about the futility of nurturing anger. Anger is like a hot coal that you pick up to throw at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. This image is so vivid and true. When you hold on to anger, rehearsing your resentments and planning your revenge, you're the one who suffers. The person you're angry at might be sleeping peacefully while you're lying awake, consumed by rage. This doesn't invalidate your right to feel angry when you've been wronged. Anger can be a healthy response to injustice, a signal that boundaries have been violated. But the question is, what do you do with that anger? Do you let it consume you from the inside, or do you use its energy to create positive change? The Stoic philosophers had a similar understanding. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself." Seneca taught that anger is a temporary madness, a loss of rational control that hurts the angry person more than anyone else. Modern anger management therapy teaches similar principles. Anger is often described as a secondary emotion, covering up deeper feelings of hurt, fear, or disappointment. When you can identify and address these underlying emotions, the anger often dissolves naturally. You realize that holding on to resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. For you, this wisdom offers a path to freedom from the prison of resentment. You don't have to carry the weight of past hurts forever. You can choose to put down the hot coal of anger. You can choose forgiveness, not for the other person's sake, but for your own peace of mind. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or condoning harmful behavior. It means releasing yourself from the burden of hatred. The Dhammapada offers another profound verse about working with difficult people. Better it is to live alone than to associate with fools. Let one walk alone, let one commit no sin, let one live without cravings, like an elephant in the forest. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is create distance from toxic relationships. This doesn't mean becoming isolated or antisocial. It means being wise about who you allow to influence your mental state. If someone consistently brings out the worst in you, if their presence makes you reactive and negative, it's okay to limit your exposure to them. You can wish them well from a distance while protecting your own peace of mind. The image of the elephant in the forest is particularly beautiful. Elephants are powerful but gentle, capable of great strength but preferring peace. They can live in community when it's healthy, but they're also content to wander alone when necessary. This is the quality of independence the verse is pointing toward, not bitter isolation but confident self-reliance. However, the goal isn't permanent solitude, but wise discernment. Another verse reminds us that better than walking alone on a wrong path is walking with a wise companion on the right path. The key is learning to distinguish between relationships that elevate you and those that drag you down, between people who bring out your wisdom and those who trigger your reactive patterns. In your own life, you have the right to choose your companions wisely. You don't owe anyone access to your inner peace. It's not selfish to distance yourself from people who consistently treat you poorly or bring out negative qualities in you. In fact, it's an act of self-compassion and wisdom. At the same time, you can practice patience and understanding with difficult people. The verse reminds us that all tremble at the rod, all fear death. Comparing others with oneself, one should neither strike nor cause others to strike. This is the foundation of compassion, recognizing that everyone suffers, everyone fears, everyone wants to be happy and free from pain. When someone treats you badly, they're often acting from their own unhealed wounds. This doesn't excuse their behavior, but it can help you respond with wisdom rather than reactivity. You can set boundaries while still maintaining compassion. You can protect yourself while still wishing the other person healing and growth. The teaching about overcoming resentment leads naturally to deeper questions about the nature of happiness and suffering itself. Why do we suffer? What is true happiness? How can we find lasting peace in a world full of challenges and disappointments? The Dhammapada addresses these fundamental questions with startling clarity and depth. One of the most psychologically sophisticated verses in the entire collection states, "We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world." This isn't New Age wishful thinking or the simplistic idea that positive thinking can solve all problems. It's pointing to the deeper truth that your experience of reality is filtered through your mental formations, your beliefs, expectations, and interpretations. Two people can experience the exact same external event and have completely different internal experiences of it. One person loses their job and sees it as a catastrophe, a sign of personal failure, evidence that life is unfair. Another person loses their job and sees it as an opportunity for growth, a chance to pursue a new direction, freedom from an unsatisfying situation. The external event is the same, but the internal experience is completely different. This doesn't mean that external circumstances don't matter or that all suffering is self-created. There are genuine injustices in the world, real tragedies, circumstances that cause unavoidable pain. But even in these situations, there's still some choice about how you relate to your experience. You can't always choose what happens to you, but you can often choose how you interpret and respond to what happens. The psychologist Viktor Frankl, who survived multiple Nazi concentration camps, wrote extensively about this principle. He observed that in the most extreme circumstances, some prisoners maintained their humanity and inner freedom, while others were broken by despair. The difference wasn't in their external circumstances, which were equally horrific for everyone, but in their ability to find meaning and maintain hope, even in the darkest situations. Modern cognitive therapy is built on similar foundations. Therapists help clients identify distorted thinking patterns that create unnecessary suffering. Someone might think, "I'm a complete failure," when they make a mistake, or "everyone hates me," when they experience one rejection. By learning to recognize and challenge these thought patterns, people can dramatically reduce their emotional suffering. But the Dhammapada goes deeper than just positive thinking or cognitive restructuring. It points to the fundamental role that craving and attachment play in creating suffering. The craving of a person addicted to careless living grows like a creeper. He jumps from life to life like a monkey seeking fruit in the forest. This verse captures the restless, never-satisfied nature of living, driven by constant desire. This doesn't mean that all desires are bad, or that you should try to eliminate wanting anything. The teaching is about understanding the difference between healthy preferences and addictive craving. When you want something but can be okay whether you get it or not, that's a healthy preference. When you feel like you can't be happy unless you get what you want, that's the kind of craving that creates suffering. The image of the monkey jumping from branch to branch seeking fruit is so accurate. When driven by craving, you're never satisfied with what you have. You're always reaching for the next thing, convinced that happiness lies just around the corner. You get the job you wanted, but then you need a promotion. You find a relationship, but then you worry about losing it, or wish your partner was different. You buy the house, but then you need to renovate it. The craving mind is never at rest. Arthur Schopenhauer, the German philosopher who is deeply influenced by Buddhist thought, described this as the pendulum swing between want and boredom. When you don't have what you want, you suffer from longing. When you get what you want, you quickly become bored and start wanting something else. Happiness, if it comes at all, is just a brief moment of transition between these two states of dissatisfaction. But there's another way to live. The Dhammapada describes it beautifully. Better than ruling the whole world, better than going to heaven, better than being Lord over all the worlds, is the first step on the noble path. The noble path is the path of awakening, of learning to find contentment that doesn't depend on external circumstances. This kind of contentment isn't resignation or giving up on life. It's the deep satisfaction that comes from being fully present to what is, rather than constantly reaching for what might be. It's the peace of someone who can enjoy success without being attached to it, who can face failure without being devastated by it, who can love deeply without clinging desperately. For you, this teaching offers profound liberation from the tyranny of never being satisfied. You don't have to wait until everything in your life is perfect to be happy. You don't have to accumulate achievements, possessions, or experiences to be worthy of peace. You can find contentment right here, right now, in this moment, with things exactly as they are. This doesn't mean becoming passive or unmotivated. You can still work toward goals, pursue dreams, and try to improve your circumstances, but you can do these things from a place of wholeness rather than neediness, from joy rather than desperation. You can prefer certain outcomes without being attached to them. You can work for change while being at peace with what is. The teaching continues with a verse about the nature of true wealth. Health is the greatest gift, contentment the greatest wealth, trust the greatest relationship. Nirvana is the greatest happiness. This completely reverses conventional ideas about what makes life valuable. Instead of money, status, or achievement, the verse points to qualities of being that are available to anyone, regardless of external circumstances. Health here doesn't just mean physical health, though that's certainly precious. It means the fundamental health of being, the wholeness that comes from living in harmony with yourself and reality. Contentment isn't settling for less than you deserve. It's recognizing that what you have right now is enough to be at peace. Trust isn't naive believing. It's the confidence that comes from understanding how life works and knowing you can handle whatever comes. And nirvana, often misunderstood as some far-off spiritual achievement, is simply the happiness that comes from the cessation of suffering. It's the peace of not being driven by craving, not being tormented by resentment, not being frightened by impermanence. It's available in any moment when you stop fighting with reality and allow yourself to rest in what is. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius expressed similar wisdom. Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. The ancient Chinese sage Lao Tzu wrote, "Be content with what you have. Rejoice in the way things are." These wise beings from different cultures and times all point to the same truth, that happiness comes from inner alignment rather than external achievement. Modern psychology confirms these ancient insights. Research on happiness consistently shows that once basic needs are met, additional wealth, status, or achievement contribute very little to life satisfaction. What matters much more are relationships, meaning engagement in activities you find fulfilling and a sense of gratitude for what you have. The happiest people aren't those who have the most, but those who appreciate what they have. This should bring you tremendous relief. You don't have to achieve something extraordinary to live a meaningful, satisfying life. You don't have to be perfect, successful, or special to be worthy of happiness. Right now, in this ordinary moment, you have access to the same contentment and peace that the greatest sages have found. It's not somewhere else. It's right here. It's not in the future. It's right now. Moving from these fundamental insights about happiness and suffering, we encounter teachings about how to actually live this wisdom in daily life. How do you cultivate the wise attitudes the Dhammapada describes? How do you develop the mental qualities that lead to lasting peace? The text offers practical guidance that's as relevant today as it was 500 years ago. One of the most practical verses states, "If you want to know your past, look at your present situation. If you want to know your future, look at your present actions." This isn't about karma as some cosmic system of rewards and punishments, but about understanding the simple cause and effect relationship between actions and their consequences. Your current situation is largely the result of past choices, habits, and mental patterns. If you're surrounded by conflict, look at how you've been relating to others. If you're constantly stressed, examine how you've been thinking about your responsibilities. If you feel isolated, consider how much you've been reaching out and connecting with others. This isn't about self-blame, but about taking responsibility for your part in creating your experience. More importantly, if you want to change your future, you need to change your present actions. You can't control what has already happened, but you have enormous power over what happens next. Every moment offers a fresh opportunity to plant seeds of wisdom, kindness, and peace. Every interaction is a chance to practice patience instead of reactivity, understanding instead of judgment, love instead of fear. The great psychologist William James wrote, "The greatest discovery of any generation is that a human being can alter his life by altering his attitudes." This aligns perfectly with the Dhammapada's teaching. You have more power than you realize to shape your experience through the quality of your thoughts, words, and actions. Cognitive behavioral therapy operates on the same principle. By identifying and changing dysfunctional thought patterns and behaviors, people can dramatically improve their mental health and life satisfaction. The past doesn't determine the future. Patterns can be broken. New habits can be formed. Change is always possible. For you, this means that whatever your current situation, you're not stuck. However your life looks right now, it can change if you're willing to change your approach. If you want more peace, start practicing peaceful responses to daily irritations. If you want better relationships, start being the kind of person you'd want to be in relationship with. If you want more joy, start noticing and appreciating the small pleasures that are already present in your life. Another profoundly practical verse teaches, "Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace." In our age of constant communication, social media, and information overload, this teaching is especially relevant. We're drowning in words, opinions, advice, and commentary. Most of it is just noise. What matters are the words that actually make a difference, that bring healing, understanding, and wisdom. This applies to your own speech as well. Instead of talking constantly, focus on speaking meaningfully. Before you offer advice or share your opinion, ask yourself, will these words bring peace? Will they help or harm? Will they contribute to understanding or confusion? Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is remain silent and simply listen. It also applies to what you choose to consume. In a world of endless information, you need to be discriminating about what you allow into your mental space. Reading news that makes you anxious and angry doesn't make you a more informed citizen. Engaging in social media arguments doesn't advance important causes. Filling your mind with negativity doesn't help anyone. Instead, seek out words that actually nourish your spirit and expand your wisdom. Read books that inspire and challenge you. Listen to teachings that help you grow. Engage in conversations that deepen your understanding of life. Choose quality over quantity in all your mental input. The verse continues with guidance about the company you keep. Walk with the wise, and you will become wise. Walk with fools, and you will suffer. This doesn't mean being arrogant or judgmental toward others, but being wise about who you allow to influence your mental state. You become like the people you spend the most time with. Their attitudes, values, and ways of seeing the world gradually shape your own. If you want to develop patience, spend time with patient people. If you want to cultivate wisdom, seek out wise teachers and friends. If you want to become more compassionate, associate with people who embody compassion. This isn't about using people for your own benefit, but about recognizing that growth happens in relationship and choosing relationships that support your growth. At the same time, you can be that wise influence for others. You can be the person whose presence brings out the best in people. You can embody the qualities you want to see more of in the world. Instead of complaining about the lack of kindness, be kind. Instead of lamenting the absence of wisdom, be wise. Instead of waiting for others to change, become the change you want to see. The text offers beautiful guidance about mental cultivation. As a Fletcher makes straight his arrow, a wise person makes straight his trembling and unsteady mind. Just as a craftsperson patiently shapes their materials into something useful and beautiful, you can patiently shape your mind into an instrument of peace and wisdom. This takes time and practice. Your mind has been forming habits for years or decades. Some of those habits serve you well, others create unnecessary suffering. Change doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen with patient, consistent effort. Just as a Fletcher works gradually to straighten an arrow, you can gradually train your mind to be more peaceful, focused, and wise. Modern neuroscience confirms that mental training literally reshapes the brain. Meditation practitioners develop thicker prefrontal cortexes, the part of the brain associated with attention and emotional regulation. People who practice gratitude show increased activity in areas associated with happiness and well-being. Your brain is plastic throughout your life, capable of forming new neural pathways at any age. The verse about mental cultivation concludes with perhaps the most encouraging teaching in the entire Dhammapada. By oneself is evil done. By oneself is one defiled. By oneself is evil left undone. By oneself is one purified. Purity and impurity belong to oneself alone. One cannot purify another. This is simultaneously sobering and liberating. Sobering because it means you can't blame others for your mental states or wait for someone else to fix your problems. Liberating because it means you have complete power over your own inner life. No one can force you to be angry, resentful, or afraid. No one can prevent you from developing wisdom, compassion, and peace. You are the author of your own experience. You can't control everything that happens to you, but you have enormous power over how you respond to what happens. This responsibility is actually a gift. It means you're never helpless, never at the complete mercy of circumstances. In any moment, you can choose wisdom over reactivity, love over fear, peace over turmoil. The final practical teaching we'll explore today comes from a verse about daily spiritual practice. Little by little, moment by moment, a wise person removes impurities from the mind as a smith removes dross from silver. Spiritual growth doesn't happen in dramatic bursts. It happens through patient, consistent practice. Just as a metal worker gradually purifies precious metal by repeatedly heating and cooling it, you gradually purify your mind by repeatedly returning to wisdom in small moments throughout the day. This should relieve you of any pressure to have profound spiritual experiences or make dramatic changes overnight. Enlightenment happens in ordinary moments through simple practices. Noticing your breath. Being present to the person you're talking with. Choosing patience instead of irritation when you're stuck in traffic. Responding to criticism with curiosity instead of defensiveness. These small moments of awareness and wisdom accumulate over time into profound transformation. You don't need perfect conditions to practice. You don't need hours of free time or a quiet retreat center. Your daily life, with all its challenges and interruptions, is the perfect place to develop wisdom. Every difficult person is a teacher in patience. Every frustration is an opportunity to practice acceptance. Every moment of beauty is a chance to cultivate gratitude. The smith doesn't get discouraged when impurities remain in the metal after one heating. They know that purification is a gradual process that requires patience and persistence. Similarly, don't get discouraged when you notice that your mind is still reactive, judgmental, or fearful. This is normal and expected. What matters is that you keep returning to the practice, keep choosing wisdom over reactivity, keep moving in the direction of greater peace and understanding. In your own spiritual journey, remember that progress isn't always linear. Some days you'll feel wise and peaceful, others you'll feel confused and reactive. This is part of the natural rhythm of growth. What matters is the overall direction of your life, not perfection in every moment. Be patient with yourself as you gradually remove the impurities of anger, greed, and delusion from your heart. As we conclude this journey through the wisdom of the Dhammapada, it's worth reflecting on how these ancient teachings speak to our modern lives. We face challenges that the Buddha's original audience couldn't have imagined: technology, global communication, environmental crisis, social media, the pace of modern life. Yet the fundamental principles of human consciousness remain the same. You still need to work with your mind. You still need to find ways to respond to difficulty with wisdom rather than reactivity. You still need to cultivate contentment in a world that constantly tells you you're not enough. You still need to find meaning and purpose in the brief span of human life. The external circumstances change. but the inner work remains constant. The Dhammapada offers you a path that has been tested by millions of people over thousands of years. These aren't abstract philosophical ideas, but practical instructions for living with greater peace, wisdom, and compassion. They don't require you to believe anything or adopt any particular religious identity. They simply ask you to experiment with different ways of thinking and being, to see what actually brings peace and what actually creates suffering in your direct experience. The most beautiful thing about these teachings is that they're available to you right now in this moment, regardless of your past or your circumstances. You don't have to earn wisdom through years of struggle. You don't have to prove yourself worthy of peace. In this very moment, you can choose to respond to your current situation with patience instead of irritation, with acceptance instead of resistance, with love instead of fear. Your life is a precious opportunity to explore these possibilities. Every day brings chances to practice wisdom, to choose kindness over cruelty, to respond to difficulty with grace rather than bitterness. You don't have to be perfect at this. You don't have to get it right every time. What matters is that you keep trying, keep learning, keep growing in wisdom and compassion. The path is simple but not easy. It requires no special knowledge or abilities, but it does require sincerity and persistence. It asks nothing of you, but everything from you. It promises no external rewards, but offers the greatest treasure of all, inner peace that no one can take away. May these ancient words find fertile ground in your heart. May they inspire you to live with greater wisdom, treat others with greater kindness, and face life's inevitable challenges with greater peace. The path is before you. The choice is yours. The time is now.